It's all fun and games until Space Zucc shows up to go take you on a real bummer of a field trip. It's Feed You Please, a heinous trip at Warp 5. My name is Joseph.
It's all fun and games till you get blown out a fucking hole where the roof used to be and sucked into the cold grip of space. I'm your co-host, Peter.
Let's not do too much dicking around here, Peter. What did we watch this week?
We're into Season 3, Episode 18, Azati Prime, first aired March 3rd, 2004. Teleplay by Manny Cotto, recently passed, R.I.P., pour one out.
Yes, rest in peace, Manny.
Man, how crazy that this dude just popped up on our radar 3 weeks ago and he died.
Died young, too, in his 60s. Sad to see.
Story by Rick Berman, Bram Braga, and Manny Cotto, directed by Alan Croker.
Well, this episode absolutely fucks, and it fucks loud. This is amazing.
It has been... I'd completely forgotten that I could really give a shit about Enterprise and reach the end of an episode, cliffhanger, and be like, oh man, I had to stop myself from watching the next one. I was pissed that it was a fucking two-parter, and I was like, sometimes too, two-parters will fuck around the first half and just basically waste time, and then the episode starts at about 25 minutes in. And this thing, I thought the pacing was really good the entire way through on it.
Dare I say it was riveting?
Yes.
Yeah, it was. And, I mean, I've seen it. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I was like you, man. I was like, fuck, I want to watch this. Let's keep going. Who was it? Jamie, who was like, I just watched all of season 3. I just ate it all. I'm like, oh, I remember why.
You know what? You're right. I remember. She's right.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't on a deal meal program over here watching Treks on a very set schedule, yeah, man, I'd probably have finished off the rest of the fucking season. There's how many more to go in season 3? Because if we're on 18, there's probably 26.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, you're a hop skip away from the end of the sky.
Yeah, so just at the top, all of the acting in this is good. Every actor actually manages to put in a good performance, especially from your key trio, right? There's real focus on them as usual, but they're very effectively used in independently interesting ways throughout the episode and high quality performances. Effects are good. Dated, sure. Basic, absolutely. But they try. They put effort in. They try to make it work.
No, there is one... They saved a lot of money on hatchery with the 640 by 480 resolution graphics they were using in that thing. I thought that the visual effects in this are on the better end overall of what we've seen in Enterprise, with a few key scenes that looked like straight up movie theater grade. Specifically, the big attack where Enterprise really gets its ass handed to it at the end. There's a flyby shot before the people get sucked out. It's actually the one where people do get sucked out into space. I think if that was spliced into First Contact, you would not have... it would have looked about the same quality.
I mean, it's hard to miss that shot, right? They definitely spent some time on...
I'm just saying, the lighting, the textures, that is a great shot.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I still think it looks a little dated. It's hard not to look dated when you're 20 years past when you made the damn thing. But it still looks good, and they put in a lot of effort to make it look good. The music, again, sinister, dark, some synth. Just the overall tone felt very Battlestar Galactic-y, right? Like Raggedy Edge trying to pull a fucking stunt here. All the characters are just playing it very straight. You buy the tension that's present in all of their conversations. This episode is good, and it is Enterprise firing at all of its cylinders. It's this is how good this show can be right here.
So we pick up. There's several key previous episodes in play, and that's going to sculpt how the plot goes down here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're going to go into this episode, your mandatory viewing is going to be hatchery. It's going to be what was the Gaslight episode?
Yeah, it's going to be the episode where they get the help from the Andorians, and the follow up episode from that when they capture Degra. You need
Right.
all those. You need the bioweapon episode where you need Rajin, because that's where that thread starts. Then you need the episode where Space Duck gives them the mission to go back to Detroit, because that all gets mentioned. Yeah, I mean, like it's pulling all the threads in. It even mentions the uh kind of recalcitrance they have over having built the probe to begin with, and that it had a lizard Zindi in it. So that was from last season.
But really, the Degra gaslighting escape room is the biggest one here. And I'm so happy that this episode was as good as it was and relied on that escape room episode as much as it did, because that escape room episode was already good on its own, and it being such a strong resource to this one. Like, that's the power of a good Trek episode, or even a bad Trek episode, is if you something down the road can make a callback to it, it really makes it worth the time, and I appreciate that. So basically, they know where this weapon is being developed, the red binary star, because of the Degra escape room fake out.
Correct.
They've gotten over to there. Oh, also the is it Chosen Realm? Is that the one where they encounter the space prisoner floating
It's
around
the
in the
one after
slime?
that. Chosen Realm was the one where the space Al Qaeda shows up.
Right. Was it? Gosh,
It was the one where T'Pol and Trip fuck, and it was the B plot in that episode. I forget the name of it, but that's the one where they meet the sphere person who's
Harbinger.
a bad guy. And so here they are now. They've arrived at Azati Prime, which is the system where this is being built. It is jammed packed with Zindi starships and technology and detection grids. And it's like, okay, well, this is clearly fucking it. This is their home. This is their base. What do we do?
Planet Zindi blew up, what, 30 years ago?
No, I think it was 70. It was something like a full generation or so ago.
Sometimes Zindi resources are indicated to be stretched thin. You know, they're building a fucking Death Star. It's not going up overnight. It seems to be a real concentrated effort. I have a super hard time with this satellite detection grid that they've effectively made a detection sphere around an entire fucking solar system. Right?
I
And
mean,
that's
it's over at least part of it, right? I don't know if it's over the whole solar system, but it's over like where this thing's being built in the surrounding planetoids.
it's got to be a lot. How many did she put a number on how many satellites there were?
It's a lot. You're right, but I buy it. Sure, they built detection satellites.
There will be bigger plot holes to exploit later on. I'm sitting there and I'm asking myself, like, okay, what is Enterprise's end goal really going to be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think to frame this episode accurately, Archer knows that he is not going to be able to permanently stop the Zindi. And the short-term goal here that they have is to destroy the Death Star now, and then run away and tell Earth, hey, we know where they're at, and then it's going to be full-on intergalactic war, right?
Right, like stop the immediate threat, and then buy yourself the time necessary to build up the forces to come back and take care of this problem, because they're trying to exterminate you.
The premise has been that Earth got attacked by the probe. Millions of people died. Starfleet recalled all of its ships to basically reinforce Earth. And the only proactive effort that we are aware of at this point is Enterprise, and Enterprise is only out there because Archer said, I have a hunch, let me take my crew and go investigate. So the question is, at what point does it become appropriate for Enterprise to say, like, you know what? We got a good shot at this. Start sending fucking help. And the fact that they lay down communication buoys, like, sometimes they can talk to Forrest, right?
Yeah, we've seen that they are able to communicate with them in some fashion.
And it was what, a 3 or 4 month trip?
Yeah, it took them weeks just to get to the border, and they've been in the Expanse for months after that.
I really think Jesus, at what point, if we want to look at episodes here, Should Archer have realistically been like, we got a really good shot at being preemptive on this, send the fucking cavalry? And I would say, gosh, where would you put it? Which one was the shipment?
Well, I think this is the one, personally. Like, until you actually find the fucking thing, you really can't call for help, right?
I
Like,
would say stratagem would have been the right time. And let's pull stratagem up here for a minute. In character universe, Azati Prime is happening January of 2154. And stratagem, which is when they put Degra in the gaslight escape room, that was December 12th, 2153. So less than a month. But yeah, I'd say, like, listen, we know where this fucking thing is at. Send the fucking crews out here because shit's gonna get for real, for real. And that's where they're at now. Hey, we are one starship. We see the bad guys. We see the base, and we cannot fly through this detection grid because all of them will know where we are and they will come gang fuck us. How do we do this? Well, luckily for us, Archer was baby crazy for an episode in Hatchery and gave us a lot of opportunity to harvest resources from a crashed insectoid ship, which, lo and behold, guess what we got in the cargo hold?
yeah, got ourselves a little insectoid ship, which we're going to use to get through the grid. They hide behind a planetoid that becomes important later. And we do get a shot of Degra with his guys, toasting with champagne. Yes, we've built a Death Star, but let's not be too cocky because we are murdering people. Degra continues to kind of be on this sort of edge of, is he a good guy or bad guy? Is he just pragmatic? Is he just protecting his people that they've tried to paint for him?
I really like Degra. Even before they get deeper into this episode, like coming out of Stratagem, which was the real introduction to him as a person, his family, the conflict, he has already gotten to go through a lot of grieving and remorse under the pretense that it was 20 years in the future or whatever, and that things had gone south. And he further reinforces it. So we know what he is capable of. We know that there is a good guy in there somewhere.
There's at least someone with reason and morality, which is, a complex choice for who is essentially your villain, right? Like, Degra's trying to exterminate all of humanity. He's the bad guy.
Oh,
He's
the fucking
he's not
reptilians are very
he's
clearly the
not the
bad guy.
worst guy. That is the reptilians and the insectoids. But he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
But he is a bad guy whom you can see can be convinced that he is doing something bad and can stop, right? That's the whole intention.
Let's call him an antagonist, because I think when we say bad guy, especially in Star Trek, that means that you are acting bad and that you are actually bad, and usually along the lines of being stupid as well, right?
Fair enough.
That's
Antagonist.
so he is an antagonist right now. And again, me not having watched any of this, I know that Shran's going to end up being an important good guy, and Shran has done antagonistic things already. I don't know what's going to happen with the Zindi ultimately, and based on how this episode ends up, I wouldn't be surprised to see if the Zindi primates end up in Starfleet somehow. Anything is possible, and that's a cool thing about this episode is who knows how this is going to fucking go down. But right now, the game plan is going to be, hey, we've got this Zindi insectoid ship. Let's figure out how to fly it. We're going to hide behind this planetoid. Also ridiculous. All these fucking satellites, and they don't have the long range sensors to see that Enterprise dropped into the sector.
Well, I think I like that they don't, so that's why they end up building what we find out as a communications array, a manned communications array on the planetoid, so that they can check to see if someone's hiding behind it. It makes a lot of sense that that's there. And the first issue that pops up is they get made by that array, and they have a limited window in which they can choose to destroy it and prevent them from sending a message that informs home base that they're present. And Archer's he's good in this. Everyone's good in this. And so, real critical moment for him in the episode is when he makes a very quick decision, but a very firm decision to destroy that uh, structure and kill everyone there. It's
Nukes
like,
it from orbit because it's the only way to be sure. I
right.
was shocked. Paul tries to push back, and she's like, "Dude, really?" And he's like, "Fucking do it." Like, I know I just, I know I just wasted like 3 days and half our fucking antimatter hatching bug babies, but I got to make up for all that lost time now with some quick murder. I just going through the options. He could have disabled the communications array. He could have set down a boarding party to like
It's only 3 of them down there.
to hostage them. He could have just beamed them up into the fucking brig. There's a lot of options. So I think to Paul being a little flabbergasted, like, wait, what? Justified. I'm not saying Archer's wrong, but I'm just saying, like, dude glossed over some very Star Trek 101 options here. Let's just hope they were bugs, right?
Hoshi is working out a way for the bug language to be have a translation matrix. So she's not in the episode very much, but you and I think, both kind of picked up that the one scene that she does have is very effective, in that it's basically T'Pol sweating her over the time it's taking her to do this, and she just doesn't really respond to the pressure because she's too busy, like on 2 computers, trying to get like the machine to say, "Hey, nice to meet you," or something like that, some real basic, and it's super complex, like clicks and hisses, and it's her kind of flexing on T'Pol to be like, "This shit is hard. This shit is hard and it takes time. Why don't you back the fuck up and let me get my fucking work done?"
I think now's a good time to have the conversation. We have not seen this show in a long time, because what this episode is a show from the first 2 seasons where that's Jonathan Archer, Trip to Paul, and also everybody else. There's no Makos in this.
Correct.
There's no other, hey, I'm gonna poke my head in crewman, whatever. Degra's out there doing his thing. There's Legion of Doom scenes away from Enterprise, but the majority of this is the crew of Enterprise facing a dilemma and everybody being involved in the process. Mayweather gets a lot of screen time, and they use Mayweather phenomenally, I thought, in this.
Agreed.
Reed, Phlox, Hoshi, they're not in it a lot, but what they are in there for is all within what their characters should be. All the acting feels good. And this is a Star Trek crew episode that shouldn't really stick out like a sore thumb, but it is because we haven't seen this in a very long time.
They always knew how to make the show. They've made this show many times. That's the whole point of the Bourbon era. But it felt like a lot of old energy suddenly was coursing through the production. And maybe that is because Manny Koto was the one that wound up actually doing the teleplay, right? The ideas came from Berman and Braga, and as well as him, but in the end, when it went to paper to be produced, he's the one that was doing that. And his touch on this script is, I think, where a lot of the difference gets made, because what's one of the first things we find out after they do their initial mission?
Well, before we get to that too, all right, so we want to get over there. We've got the bug vessel. We need to learn how to fly it. That's a big problem. You've got Mayweather and you've got Trip down there trying to figure out how this thing works. It's hard to pilot. Archer will even say later on, like, I think that this ship was designed for someone that has refractive lenses for eyes.
Yeah, insect, like 4 arms and insect eyes.
Still, the only thing I can fucking focus on is the interior cabin lighting, which is very clearly a light from Home Depot. This wavy fucking 3-light job that looks like.
Grab the off the shelf stuff when you only get like $600 to build the set.
And it's infuriating too, because this fucking set piece has become such a big deal. Like, couldn't it just been recessed lighting? I didn't have to see the fucking lamp from my friend's bathroom. But hey, what if we get made? We got to have the translation matrix. All these concerns, because this is supposed to be a stealth op, right? They're going Solid Snake on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, they've got this insectoid ship to try and slip through this detection grid unnoticed. Joe, what else they got in that cargo hold? What would have been another great alternative to this insectoid vessel?
Not remembering what's in there.
Oh, well, if you go to the Enterprise impound lot, we also happen to have a Suliban cell vessel.
Oh, Jesus!
That's small and maneuverable. It has a cloaking device.
Didn't they drop that back off at Earth, though?
Did they? I don't know. Nobody said jack fucking shit. I would think that if I was Jonathan Archer and I had fucking hypertech cloaking device, things that could just hammer the absolute dog shit out of us, that I would have mentioned it to my boss. And if my boss was also me and had 2 fucking brain cells, I'd say, you stop doing what you're doing right now. You come home and you give me that goddamn alien UFO. All right, we're going to... The United Earth...
Because I want to make all of my ships fucking invisible, Jonathan. Why else not? Why else would I fucking want it?
The new United Earth military industrial complex needs this. We're going to Area 51 this thing. Also, keep in mind those cell ships are faster than fucking Enterprises, too. So, they've never mentioned this thing after it got used on Planet Warhammer. What was that? The one where Reed loses his communicator. But I assume it's still in the fucking cargo hold. So, big miss here that they didn't just... massive fucking plot hole. And I don't blame Matty Kodo because you didn't even fucking remember the thing, too. But I'm sitting there watching him, like, dick around with this insectoid vessel. I'm like, if you're going to fly in something that's not Starfleet, like, get the good stuff, man. What are you doing? Use that DLC you've been sitting on.
Listen, that item had to be deleted because it was there because of hacks. So,
and that was a dupe. That got nerfed.
Mayweather and Trip do manage to pilot the ship successfully to the planet. And what they find, of course, is that the Death Star is being built underwater.
Badass.
Yeah, like, what a flex. And
does that mean the SEAL world, like, manatee people are like the bulk labor?
It makes sense, though. They're helping make the fucking thing. And if you want them to help make the fucking thing, it better be underwater. And it's like, why should it be underwater? It's where we live, insectoids.
We don't have to use repulsor lift to, like, float around and construct this thing. We can just swim up there. Now, what's interesting, and I would have liked it if, like, the Memory Alpha had anything worth a shit, which, surprise, it doesn't. And that's, again, very telling that one of the best episodes we've watched, and there's nothing in this thing. I'm looking at the thumbnail in Memory Alpha. It's the Death Star sitting in its, like, cradle underwater, and the water's all green. And I'm like, God, what if that's all just, like, antifreeze and fucking industrial blight just leaking out of this poisoning?
It is not a healthy area. This is an environmental hazard. This is a brownfield waiting to happen. And they get all the way up in it. They're like, get some scans, get out. And they're like, what if we scan the inside and then leave? And they do it. They, like, get into traffic and scan everything. And they're like, all right, let's get the fuck out of here. And you see them back in Enterprise, like, just cut to the point. Yeah, they were successful. And you get to one of the best scenes in the episode straight away. And that is, we piece together that this thing, in fact, has a thermal exhaust port that can, in fact, get up in it. And all it's going to take is a payload of a couple photon torpedoes, blow this bad boy sky high. And that means you can just put a couple on this insectoid ship, get close, blow them up, and that's it. Mission complete. We did it.
Yeah, it's like Call of Duty. Just throw a couple bricks of C4 on the front of your Jeep and just drive back over to that thing. Uh-oh. There's a complication.
Yeah, that means someone ain't coming back. And
unfortunately, you don't have another sea slug to sit around for a week to grow a dummy driver to, like, go suicide run that thing, which, boy, if that option was levied on the table, wouldn't that be fun?
Make a quick copy of Mayweather with all of his knowledge and skills.
Mm-hmm.
What is my purpose? To fly the suicide bomb. Seriously, you made me just to be a fucking suicide bomber? Yes. Well, you gonna do it or not? So,
what, you want to let the Makos have it? You want the Mako to be the hero? Come on.
I love the scene because it starts with the revelation, and then very quickly Mayweather's like, "Listen, I'm the one who's out of pilot. I clearly needs to be the one to do this. That's just practical." Tripp's like, "No, I should be the one to do this. I know it just as well as you do. We learned how to do it together. And I'm the senior officer, so if it should be anyone, it should be me." And then Archer just puts an end to the discussion and be like, "Yes, and I'm the captain. Guess whose responsibility this ultimately is? You. You're teaching me how to run this thing. Get the torpedoes ready. Let's go. We're doing this." It's Archer fulfilling the captain role probably better than he has on the
Ever.
show. Yeah.
Ever.
Period.
When's the last time Archer was really good? It was a big deal. It was a good episode. I'm disappointed in myself. I can't remember the last one where we were like, this is what Archer should
This
have been.
stuck out so much as a good entry for him that it kind of overrode any reaching we were doing to try and paint Archer in a better light. Like, this actually demonstrates him as a good captain.
Great captain.
Yeah, like immediately says, "No, this is definitely the right call, and that means I have to be the one to do it. The ship can be led by my very capable crew. I do not have to be here for this to succeed." And yeah, that is the ideal of the heroic Starfleet captain that Star Trek has long since maintained. That the servant leadership requires self-sacrifice. You cannot ask your crew to do something you're not willing to do yourself, particularly when it seems like it's the right call for you to do it. Because you need Travis to fly Enterprise home. You need Trip to maintain the engines. They're not expendable in the way you are. To Paul, Trip, the rest of them, they can get the ship home. They can provide the leadership necessary.
I forget at what point the conversation happens, but Archer gets to fill in some reasoning as to why he's doing this. Again, great continuity. Similitude, I ordered Phlox to create a copy of my best friend to die. I just made the order to nuke a base full of people from orbit. I'm not giving any more orders for people to die. This
Perfect.
is on me now, right?
Perfect.
Like,
I did like he noted specifically about similitude where he said, "I was there when he was killed to save your life." Because he says it's a Trip, by the way. And like, this is the speech
which
he's giving
shows that
him.
there's still guilt. I mean, then that was a great episode for Archer too, in that act tore him apart. This dude's carrying baggage. There's a really good. There's so many good scenes in this. Like, I can't say which one's my favorite. He gets the crew together to basically say, farewell. I'm proud of you. Look how far we've come. This isn't the reason we're supposed to be out here. We're supposed to be explorers. Hopefully, after this is all done, you guys can get back to doing what we're supposed to do, which has only been touched on a few times. Like the first time they encountered the spheres. No, they didn't actually, and that was a big miss. There was
Yeah,
that's
that
where
was
they're.
our headcanon, is that he reflected on, like, boy, I'd spend 2 months here, but I
Mhm.
can't. We've got too many things to do.
But I'm not happy about the role we've been asked to fill here. This is how life is going to go, and I'm going to have to go and fucking do my part to stop this from happening. Of all the people that are going to sit in the seat, nobody is prouder of their crew than I am right now, and that was pretty powerful, knowing that, like, what's to come for Archer and the captain's chair of the Enterprise overall. Followed up by an even better scene, which is T'Pol confronting him in the hallway.
Well, in the midst of all this, there is an important revelation. It happens relatively early as the farewells go on. And that is, he gets in the turbo lift and then he gets plucked out of space and time by Space Zuck himself,
He
Agent
gets
Daniels.
he gets time zucked. Yeah.
So he gets time zucked, and he finds himself, per Daniels, on another ship in another time. Specifically, this is the 26th century. This is 500 years in the future, and they are on the USS Enterprise J at a
So we ended Picard on the G.
2401
No. But letter wise, so the E is
G.
destroyed, the
Mm-hmm.
F is destroyed, presumably, or
Mm-hmm.
at least retired. There's the G, so you got G, H, I, J. So those three ships better last a long fucking time, man.
It's true. The J was at the end of its service life. But
They pulled this out of mothballs.
the the battle is called Proicon 5, that is presently fought out the window. And Daniels explains, you, Captain Archer, you cannot kill yourself. You cannot go do this. And you suddenly get context for what's going on this season. And that is the future that is supposed to happen is that the Federation, a thing that does not exist yet, but you are critical to making, is going to show up in this part of space when the sphere builders try to emerge into our dimension and wipe out all life in the galaxy. And in doing so, obviously kill the Zindi, but it will be the Federation that is successful here. They will drive the sphere builders back. And in fact, this very crew is has Zindi members in it. So they become part of the Federation at some point in the future. And your death will prevent that from happening. So you cannot suicide mission on this. That is not an option. And actually, this is probably the best scene Space Zucc has been in, because he gets into an argument with him where he's saying, you can go and blow up their Death Star if you want. They're just going to build another one. You have to go talk to them.
This is the most forthright that Time Zucc has been with Archer as well. I mean, this guy has no fucks to give for the space-time continuum, contaminating the past or anything else. You know, the Federation. Archer's like, well, you say the Federation, but oh yeah, well that's you, the Vulcans, the Andorians, like
Tellarites, yeah.
any illusion that you as the audience might have that like Archer was going to found the Federation on his own volition, that's right out the fucking window now. Like, this dude's just, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point after the fucking hookup. I won't tell you what the Romulans are when we're stranded on, you know, the future ruin of Earth, but here, this is what the fucking composition of
the Federation is. The government you're going to form, you know.
By the way, this is how you make a fucking photon cannon, you know. Here, you want to know about the Genesis device? Let me tell you about that too. Archer, on the other hand, real close-minded. Archer knows how these time pockets work. He went to Detroit where he had a whole adventure and then arrived back in time at the exact moment he was stepping out of the room. It just basically like spun around, right? Mm-hmm. So he knows he could sit there and talk to this guy for fucking 2 weeks. He's not losing any real time. So he has a sense of urgency, which is understandable because he has just consigned himself to die and like he's trying to keep himself psyched up. But he knows he's got the time to bullshit. And unless he has a self-annihilation impulse, which we know he likes head injuries, but I don't think he's actually suicidal.
Right.
So the fact he's not willing to indulge or even like spitball ideas with Time Zucc in this moment is kind of silly. And he sticks to his guns with a veracity for violence that we've never seen. And it's a big step back, especially after... What's the one where he spares the Ouroborals?
Oh, I know.
Shipment?
Yeah.
And Hatchery, too. Like, part of that certainly was the persuasive facial he took.
He was on drugs there. He was on hormones.
Yeah, but I still think that you would have seen some degree of like, let's try and help him if we can. So him being like, no, the only option is to suicide, kill everything, including myself.
I think it makes sense though, because we've already been told from Daniels that none of this is supposed to be happening at all. So he's already got kind of a distrust of him saying what the future is going to be. Like, obviously that's mutable. Second, no one likes to be told they don't have agency. No one likes to be told, like, no, this obvious shot at this you're going to take is not right. Like, when he's pretty dedicated to the idea. And third, he's trying to punish himself. So, you know, he's bought in for that reason as well.
Yeah.
He's like, he thinks he deserves to die. So he's trying to make it happen.
And that's the only part of this that can kind of hold water for me. Because if it was just, hey, I've got a low risk play that's going to have a big payoff, I'm going to go for it. despite what you say. But when it's like, dude, you got to go on a fucking suicide mission. You got to die. And I'm telling you, do not do that thing. There are other options that you need to explore. I did like that. Well, I don't know if I like it. So, in the temporal Cold War, there is Time Zuck and whatever version of the Federation or Time Cops he represents. There is Mr. X, who has been puppeting the Suliban.
Correct.
And then the interphasic extraplanar, the sphere builders,
Correct.
inserted themselves after the fact. And that's what's thrown Time Zuck through a loop, is that this was just supposed to be Mr. X and the Suliban that he was dealing with, and then the sphere builders came in out of nowhere.
And because they exist in another plane of existence, the things that they're doing are not linear in time in the same way that you would expect, right? The timeline is being kind of mutating around having to deal with them. And so they're showing up in the 22nd century and the 26th century or 27th century.
So basically, we liked the temporal Cold War plot of season 1 and season 2, but we wanted to make it more dangerous. So we dogpiled sphere builders ultimately into that temporal Cold War. It's cool. I like the little bit of time they spend on the J. Ultimately, it's a tease because they're just in some bullshit observation deck. You don't get to see bridge or uniforms or anything else that you want to see as a Star Trek fan, which for Berman area, that's a real blue ball move.
Can't even have just one crappy thing with like a Holiday Inn Express name tag there or whatever.
Yeah, but in the end, Time Zuck's like, just think it over. Here's a little memento. One of the crew members on this ship is a Zindi primate, and this is his, fucking family heirloom pog. This is a slammer. This is an important one. These go for good money on eBay. I'm going to give it to you. This is how much we trust you.
T'Pol then has the scene you were referencing before with Archer when he gets back from this, which I think is why it's important, because she's suddenly like, you shouldn't go do this. We should study this. Time travel is real. She's copping to that finally at last after 3 seasons.
Being stuck in fucking Detroit with fast food subplots has disabused me of the notion that time travel isn't real.
And as the scene goes on, we finally see a turn in T'Pol. And again, Jolene Blalock does a great job in this episode. And this is kind of where that starts. And that is, she just blurts out to Archer, I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die. That's the reason why I don't want you to go on this mission. It is very emotional, very to the point. There's emotion in her voice. There's emotion in her expression. And Archer catches how odd that is that has just happened, right? Like you're just actually concerned, right? And it broke through all of your Vulcan conditioning, and
so one way for Archer to look at it, another way for Archer to look at that is saying, you should not have had that emotional outburst. You might be going space crazy, and I don't know if I should be leaving my ship in your hands if you are the one who's taking turn eating crazy pills this episode. So maybe you just really care about me so much that it surpassed your logical hardwiring. And because I'm a egotist, I'm going to choose to believe that's the truth. But more realistically, I think you are in a bad place and that you are mentally unwell. And I don't know, you've been sick a lot these past 3 years. Maybe you need to go in the decontamination room and I should leave Trip in charge. She's not able to talk him down. And I do like that. She's like, listen, I guess she doesn't say, it's illogical, but this feels bad. This feels awful. You've even had Time Zuck tell you this is not the thing to do. Can we please just discuss alternatives?
Archer is not going to be convinced. He then has the speech where he talks about, I've caused a lot of people to die. It's my turn.
Who's that with? Mayweather?
I think that's with Trip. Oh, is it? No, it is with Mayweather. You're right. It is
Yeah.
with Mayweather because Mayweather's the only one who has balls to ask. He said he's well used in this episode where he's like, all the people on this ship, we got backups. We don't have another captain. Why are you doing this? Like, boss, what's up? Well, it's my only chance to ask this question, right? Like,
You're my
why
new
are you doing?
space dad.
Yes, and he goes, well, I've signed death warrants, man. Like, I gotta take my turn at it. That's just what's just, and I think it's good for Archer's character. It actually makes you care about what his decision making, what he's doing.
I got to
And
do it for action, Grandpa.
before he dies of autoerotic asphyxiation. No, wait, that was
Yeah.
the other one. Uh, the he sets off on the mission, and at this point, we have kind of two parallel paths. One on Enterprise, one what happens to Archer. What happens on Enterprise starts with them launching it and T'Pol withdrawing immediately to the ready room and not being on the bridge. She goes in, she turns, she's clearly crying, she continues to be emotionally compromised. And then probably my favorite shot is when that continues. She's sitting at the desk. She has got a look on her face, the way her eyes, like she is not having it. She's lost in her emotional space. It's all in the face. It's all in just what her eyes are doing. And then the door chimes, and suddenly she's got to fucking put it back together, right? You got to fucking make it. You got to look good. You got to make like you're in command. She grabs a pad. Her facial expression completely changes. Like she like physically tightens it and kind of like moves her head and then beckons them to enter. And it's like that was hard to do, and you did it, conveyed that without a word. And then it's Trip coming in, who's trying to reach her emotionally. This scene works great too.
Yes.
I mean, these two have more chemistry and emotional maturity together as characters and actors than 7 seasons of everyone on Voyager, beginning and end.
Hmm.
Maybe Space
I
Mark. Maybe Space Mark.
Are we talking relationships only?
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's a very shallow pool. All right. Again, Voyager. What are the big pairings you had? Neelix and Kess, Tom and B'Elanna, which was so fucking. I was thinking about B'Elanna as a character this morning. Like, I'm putting her in my top 3. Like, I really, really like that character by the end. And
I came
even as
around to her
much as I
strong, yeah.
like her, maybe top 4 because I got to put Kess in there somewhere too. There's a lot of people in Next Gen I like a lot, but even as much as I like B'Elanna as a character, her and Paris are just fucking miserable on screen together. Space Mark and
Janeway.
Janeway, and then of course bartender Michael and Janeway, and maybe to a certain extent Neelix and Tuvok, and that would be my favorite pairing of of intimate encounters on Voyager. But to the point, these two here, it's great. They had just made this disclosure to each other a couple episodes ago that like, turns out I like you and it turns out you like me, and there is something here. And they kind of closed it in a weird part, like, oh, we're just going to be fuck buddies, but like, she's all business here, and it's get the fuck out.
I think that the fact that it starts with Trip's right? He's correct in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be there. This is hard for everyone. The captain is dead now. Like we have to fucking pull together, and we have to move past this. Is not. And what he says is, this isn't easy for any of us. And what he's expressing is, this isn't easy for me. Like, Trip is Archer's best friend, so his loss is more deeply felt than even anyone else. And who is he turning to? His intimate partner, right? He's like, I need you right now, like to be present. Like personally, he's making that appeal, not just as the now XO of the ship, not just as Commander Trip Tucker. It's no, I'm Trip. I'm kind of your boyfriend, and I kind of need you right now to be present because that's not only what your job should be, it's what I need you to do. And she just like turns to him and says, get out. I'm not having this right now.
Dismissed, get out.
Yeah. The get out was personal. The dismissed was professional. The get out was, no, I need you to leave.
Again, 2 ways to look at the scene. One is, gosh, Archer and this human experience means a lot more to DePaul than maybe she was really prepared to admit to herself. I think there's a much more sinister way to look at this. Again, that something's wrong with DePaul, and her shit is, I don't know if it's lingering effects from Impulse and her time around Trillium D. I don't know if it's her space aids. What was that syndrome called?
Yeah, I forget the name of it too. I almost said Irromatic syndrome, but that's not correct.
She has gone through quite a few DePaul's sick with something this week. She had that thing where some fucking bacterial infection like put her into space heat, right? That super exploitative episode. But there's some real chances that this isn't just, oh shucks, she feels bad about Archer. Like her brain is not working right. So I'll be excited to see where that's going. I want to fold back again to Archer and his conversation with Time Zucc and with DePaul, and this steadfast dedication he has to, we need to stop these guys. Violence is the answer. Go back to Twilight and Archer experiencing the horror and pain and suffering of seeing what happens when they fail, and my desire that he was able to carry some of that trauma back in time. And again, how perfect that would fit in as an explanation of why Archer is one-track violence on this, or sorry, one-track
Right.
mind on this suicide run. I've seen, I maybe even if he doesn't even perfectly remember it, but like from the Quantum Leap, like I can't tell you exactly what happened, but I have a feeling, and that feeling says that at all costs these guys must be stopped. There can
I've
be no
literally
quarter.
experienced humanity's destruction as a consequence of failure, and I'm not going to fail. We're going to
Yeah.
blow this thing up. Everything else be damned. We can talk to them after. They're
Yeah.
building a weapon to destroy our people. That means we have to put an end to that before we do anything else.
And if it's me dying or however many fucking people on Earth at this point, like this is happening. I am traumatized. We're moving forward. Shame it didn't happen, whatever. Anyways, so meanwhile, Archer has his insectoid ship. He flies underwater. He knows exactly where it's going to be. He comes up on the coordinates. There's a space cradle, but what's not there is the Death Star. Moops.
It has been moved because they knew it been made, because guess what? Because they blew up the communications array and put them into a security alert. And so they pull them over. And
No,
when we
they don't.
next
They start shooting at him. The patrol comes along, start laying shots on him. Archer's getting knocked around the cabin. Doesn't look good. Archer dies. But lucky for Archer, he's been a good boy.
goes to
Archer
heaven.
He goes to head wound heaven.
I was going to say, like, little do they know, they think they're torturing him, right? They've got him chained up.
Skip right past the pearly gates of St. Peter, and he goes right to heaven. And boy, let me tell you, if you were to sit there and say 2 episodes ago, what do you think Archer's top jack-off fantasy would be? It would be his arms shackled above his head in a room full of baddies, low sexy lights with some fucking shadowy grids across his face, as everyone in the room takes turns punching him in the face, head and neck area.
Over and over and over again. You can tell it's getting him hard because he's got that sexual energy in his eyes as he starts telling Talum, who's the head Zindi reptilian, oh, you know what we eat on our planet? Fucking reptiles. Reptiles used to be king shits. Then a comet came around, us humans took over, and then we became the dominant species. Now we fucking eat you. That's what I do. I eat turtle soup in San Francisco. Hit me again so I can come right on your face. Hit me again.
I thought that the turtle soup was a little too. What was too far when he's like, what took me like legit took me out of things. They're like, tell us where everybody is and how many ships has Earth sent. Like, you know, it's the same interrogation he's been through like 3 times at this point. Yeah, he starts telling the story about like, you know, oh, I'm going to tell you about the dinosaurs, and they're like, oh gosh, I want to hear about the dinosaur. Oh, you the dinosaurs. They suck. They fucking died. Little do you know, Archer, dummy, the most fucking advanced species in the galaxy is actually the dinosaur people of Voyager. You fucking idiot.
Yeah, they actually escaped before the meteor. They just bounced.
Yeah, but he's like, they have brain's the size of a walnut. And I stop, and in my mind, I'm like, why the fuck would this Zindi know what a walnut is? And then I'm thinking of like, just like flash, like instant the train of thought in my brain. I'm like, how would the Zindi know what a walnut is? Clearly, there must be a universal translator in this room somewhere, right? Because he can't speak Zindi. So it's like walnut, a known quantity, where they could be like, oh, well, walnut's the size of a Miklok in Zindi, so he heard Miklok, like, and
But
then
he says it right after.
right, like he realizes what he said was so fucking stupid. He's like, oh, so that felt like a page right out of the Orville, right? Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna lay the sick burn on it. But like, hold on, I gotta explain the joke real quick.
I love
And then
it.
he's,
Like, size of a walnut, it's really small.
you don't know what a walnut is? It's really small. Okay, well, I'm gonna punch you in the face for that after all.
Eventually, he manages to antagonize this guy enough that he threatens his ship, and they get into negotiation stage. And he says he's willing to talk, but only to Degra. And the way that he convinces Degra to talk to him is to tell him the name of his third child. And this gets his attention. He comes to talk. He says he's only going to talk to him alone. And we find out Degra's third child did not survive to be born. And this was a clearly extraordinarily intimate detail that he has that Degra apparently has never told anybody. And he obviously asks, like, how do you know that? And he goes, I'm just not not at the time for me to tell you I tortured you, pal, and then wiped your memory. I don't think that's the way to trust conversation, but clearly we should chit chat.
Meanwhile, over on Enterprise, it's been too long. There was no big boom. There's been no contact from Archer. Things are not looking good. Maybe we need to start taking actions. Unfortunately, T'Pol's not in a mind space where she is looking at the big picture right now. She's hyper focused on Archer, the grief. Maybe he got captured. Maybe I can fly in there with a shuttle pod and try to use diplomacy. Like, the only thing she says that's kind of reasonable is like, maybe the fact I'm Vulcan will give me negotiation leverage that you as humans don't. And Trip does a pretty good job of like shooting down all her ideas and poking holes, and she's basically a bitch to him. Like, he's like, what are we supposed to do? Just fly in there with, everybody on the ship is supposed to go in there one at a time on shuttles? No, clearly there'll only be one shuttle after I'm gone. Like, again, she is not in a good place.
And to the point where Trip has to grab her by the female depowering spot, which is
hits her in the weak point. Yeah,
hits her right in the weak point to try and prevent her from getting onto the ship. She reacts almost violently to being accosted. She is
almost, if he didn't hit her in the fucking stunner, give her the girl stunners. I mean, he might have gotten popped on the neck. Before she has a chance to get on the shuttle pod, however, it becomes apparent that the jig is up, and a boot party's flying over there to go start some shit.
They get into a tragic fight. The Zindi ships that have come for them outnumber them, outfight them, and we see Enterprise get the shit kicked out of it in a way that we never have. They are taking broadsides, pieces of the hull are flying off, all the IEDs are going off on the bridge and all the places you see on the ship. As we started our conversation about this episode, you get a great FX shot where like a massive phaser blast hits the top part of the saucer. Piece of the hull comes off, and 3 dudes get sucked out into space dead. I mean, it is a bad time. Bodies are starting to stack up. The ship is on the raggedy edge of possibly exploding. The Archer stuff wraps up with Degra being partially convinced to hear Archer out, the other primate counselor being brought in, the arboreal counselor being brought in.
Part of that too is the closing of Archer and his one-on-one is like, you got to trust me.
Yeah, here's the Zindi. Yeah, here's the Zindi thing I got, and it's from the future.
There's a Pog slammer. It's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
on my arm pocket. He's like, in my right pocket, get that out. And it's like,
He picked the
dude,
right pocket.
you've got like
There's like four of them there.
40 pockets on your jumpsuit, 20 on the left side, 20 on the right side. There's a lot of perfect lineups of fate, like that Archer would just so happen be able to get an audience effectively in front of the right people because he tried to kill them and ultimately failed, and would have the opportunity to talk to Degra, and then Degra would know the exact right pocket he was talking about. Like, wow, just a what if after what if. He goes, hey, quantum date that thing. You'll see that my talk about the future is right. Because he's telling him the entire thing that Time Zucc told him. You guys are getting jerked on, the entire basis of this war. And that was something that was missing from uh, Stratagem. Was at no point did Archer say, why the fuck are you doing this? Who's telling you this shit? What did they tell you?
Mm-hmm.
What is the bait? And that would seem like the obvious first question you would ask this guy if you really had him in this position. Like, why did you guys? And finally, it comes out here through Time Zucc, like you're being lied to. You're being played. Space jelly is gonna fuck the entire this entire quadrant up, galaxy up. It's gonna start with Zindi, and we need to back off this. Also, the reptiles and the insectoids are fucking jerk faces after all, and they need to go.
It's just enough for you to buy it, right? Like the Zindi don't accept Archer's every word. They're skeptical. They interrogate him. They question him, but he does enough to convince them that there's something to what he's saying.
The other primate had like the best line. And he's like, "Oh, so you want fucking peace and like this open dialogue only after you came here to fucking blow us all up and failed? Like, fat chance, motherfucker."
Right? It's exactly. If he didn't respond that way, it wouldn't be credible. So it's like correct. Like you can't just have him believe him. He has to be suspicious. This has to be something that we take time to make this turn that they obviously have been foreshadowing for most of the season, right? Like that the
You're telling me
arboreals.
that you just wanted to come by here and chat and just get your face punched over and over again, like you just wanted that to happen? Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah,
Look at my
yes.
pants. Look at my pants.
I travel the galaxy for new aliens to give me head wounds.
That thing, that's not a tail sticking out of the front of me. That's not supposed to normally be there. I'm really enjoying this. In fact, if you wouldn't mind punching me across the jaw right now. Also, props to the makeup department, because for the first time, Archer getting his fucking face punched a million times, like, looks legit.
Yeah, it looks like it actually beat him up. He looks pretty bad. But he eventually convinces we'll call them the warm-blooded counselors present,
The
that
good guys.
that he should get a chance to speak to the council. Dolem, the head lizard, comes in and is like, found your ship and I'm presently blowing it up. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Before that, though, also, there's a big revelation that Operation Detroit was Black Ops.
Yes,
That
that
the
they
council had voted not to go with the bioweapon, the T virus. We're led to believe that the sphere builder benefactor that is sponsoring and puppeting the Zindi is a lady,
and has some mastery over time.
and that
That's straight up indicated.
I know, but it's like the council voted against T virus. Yes, so basically the reptilians and probably the insectoids are being treacherous and going behind our back. And then the fucking guy is like, well, if you were going to go behind the counselor's back, doing it in the past would be a good way to hide that. It's like, yeah, or any other fucking planetoid, asteroid, space station, just a fucking ship floating around.
They did need to get human DNA. That was part of why they need to go to Earth. So going to Earth in the past is a lot less suspicious than going to Earth now.
Again, it's just a piece of dialogue that's kind of like, yes, would you all... Going back in time is a good place to hide your secret research lab. Would you like to also tell me that air is good to breathe? Like, this is some real fuck.
But as you said, the episode ends ultimately on Enterprise in the midst of getting the shit kicked out of it, and just cut the black. Pick up next week. It's still going. This is still happening.
Archer has co-opted a healthy chunk of the Zindi upper leadership. It seems like he's got a real shot to get in front of him and make his plea. Also, too, man, like the entire time, especially with Enterprise getting fucking absolutely hammered, I'm like, clearly this is a point where fucking Shran's gonna, pop out of the side hatch and like even the fucking fight up, and they haven't really had a lot of good interactions in the Delphic Expanse. You look at the first two seasons, and there's a lot of like Enterprise doing good, Voyager too, like, oh, look at all these people we've helped along the way, and like at any point you're gonna have this ragtag armada of people to help you. That hasn't really happened in the Delphic Expanse at all. You've got
No,
kind of good relations with Shran, more or less, but other than that, like,
you've met no one useful to your.
space cowboys. Maybe the posse will show up with like fish bowls over their head, like shooting their fucking guns.
They're like orcs from 40K. All of their technology works because they believe in it. And I guess like what the telepath, the spice dealer. These are who they've got. not
Yeah,
not enough.
the spice dealer, but not the trader. Rajin. I guess that could have been the ace in the hole, that somehow she could have done something to sabotage one of the ships. Again, real miss that she doesn't get to be in the series anymore, because I thought she was pretty cool. But yeah, Count Fuckface, for whatever. God, man, if that guy like did like unleashed a psychic storm or something, that'd be cool. But so yeah, Enterprise ends up in a real bad spot. Archer's right where he wants to be, and it's being tortured with mostly head punches. And again, Degra comes out of this as a great contender for guest star reoccurring character.
Yeah, he treats what's going on with a amount of gravitas in his performance that had to be hard to capture, right? Like what a complex set of motivations. Like I feel like I have to do this because I have evidence that my race will be destroyed if I don't, but I'm working on weapons that'll blow up billions and working with people I don't trust. Now I've got this human who's shown up. Now maybe I need to trust him, but wait a second, I've been previously convinced that he's my enemy. That's a lot to give to a guest
Morally, I
actor.
don't want to be doing what I'm doing. What he
Yeah.
said, he came from a role in education, right? So like, this dude wasn't just a fucking weapons maker that struck big and they decided to go with him. Like, he left a peaceful profession to work on a weapon of mass destruction and is fundamentally not okay with it. So and again, everybody should have the fucking emotional baggage. Like, we had our own planet until uh the fucking insectoids and the reptiles blew it up and ruined it for all of us, and now hearing that they're going behind our back, and like, lots of emotions for these guys.
What are we watching next week, man? I'm ready for it already. I want to get to it.
All right, after this we're going to go into season 3 episode 19, Damage. I almost don't want to read what the fucking capsule is going to be, because I don't want to spoil anything for myself.
How about this? I'll read it. The Enterprise crew must cope with devastating damage to the ship, and I'll just leave it there.
So they obviously they survive. Everybody doesn't fucking die.
Yeah, the show continues. But other than that, yeah.
God, what if that was the send off? It's like, we're gonna get a bunch of new crew members because we don't feel like this Hoshi Mayweather characters are working in Reed to a certain extent. So we're just gonna
Mayweather was one of those bodies. Like, oh no,
we're gonna have the gumption we didn't have to fucking kill off Garrett Wong and fucking Harry Kim, and we're gonna really clean house. That would have been a hell of a way to fucking send them off, though. Like,
it's true. Big old massive attack just vaporizes one of them.
We know you're
really set some stakes, right? Like,
we know that we've killed Tasha Yar, and we know that we've killed Cass, more or less, and whoever the fuck died in Deep Space Nine. But did you know we've got the balls to kill 3 of the main bridge crew in one attack?
I would have liked it if they'd killed Reed and then like straight up replaced him with Major Hayes after last week when he's like has to, or 2 weeks ago when they did the insectoid episode. No, it was last week.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be
perfect. But they didn't do it.
Yeah, but, I mean, I'll tell you right now, like, even getting rid of the fact that like Reed is a slimy character I don't enjoy on screen, like, I don't know, maybe killing the security officer is a little cliche, but again, he's not really security, he's just fucking super science guy. he would have been. He's just such a blank slate. Nobody knows anything about him. He doesn't really have any great. He likes pineapple upside down cake. This guy's got nothing going from it. It's an easy character to jettison. He's brought nothing to the interest table.
What's not easy to jettison is that we've been active more on YouTube, putting up our little mess hole conversations that Peter and I have as we warm up to do our podcast. So if that is of interest to you, go like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. 20 minutes a week. You can count on that at least, maybe more if we feel up to it. And we always appreciate you following along on the show on email, Twitter, Facebook, Discord. All the links are out there. Come join us. Thanks.